Now for those wondering when we're going to see OLED with future MacBooks, we do have a tidbit regarding that, so let's delve into it. Right, so of course recently there's been tons of talk regarding the iPads getting the OLED upgrade as soon as 2024, and now of course there are some tidbits emerging about MacBooks also transitioning to OLEDs. And while it seems the transition for the MacBooks heavily depends on how successful the transition is with the iPads. And yeah, that's exactly what Min-Chi Kuo told us previously. He said the release date of the OLED MacBook is dependent on the schedule of the iPad's adoption of OLEDs, and MacBooks should use OLEDs in 2025 at the earliest, if we see the 12.9-inch and 11-inch OLED iPads launch in 2024. And yeah, that's exactly what this new report tells us from the Elec. They also believe iPads should be adopting OLEDs in 2024, so that should be the next iPad Pro refresh. And shortly after that, in 2025, the MacBooks should gain OLEDs. Now, the OLED panels these iPads and MacBooks are going to use are actually quite special because, number one, they combine the properties of flexible and rigid panels. For example, you get the better colors and the contrast ratio of flexible panels, but with the additional durability the rigid panels have. And so the hybrid nature and the two-stack structure of these panels should mean we should see twice the brightness and 4 times the longevity. And this is pretty key because many of us hold onto iPads and MacBooks way longer than any other products, and so durability is important. But yeah, this will be a major upgrade for the MacBooks because many photo and video editors need their displays to be color accurate on MacBooks, and that's really what OLED's going to give you, alongside of course better contrast ratios, deeper blacks, and so yeah, this will be a game-changing upgrade. Now I do wonder, are we going to see the OLED upgrade with the existing design, or is Apple going to give us a redesign in 2025? Now personally, I think it's going to be the former, because Apple gives us redesigns every 5 to 6 years with MacBooks, and we had a major redesign in 2021, so of course, the earliest we should be seeing any design changes should be in 2026 or 2027. But even then, the design we have right now is peak MacBook. I don't think there's a lot of upgrades they can do to the design of this. Maybe thinner bezels, maybe get rid of that notch, but form factor wise, it is kinda perfect. Now by the way, these OLED panels are going to be produced by BOE, Samsung and LG. Now it's very good. Apple's diversifying the supply chain because obviously, as we're seeing with iPhone production right now, because of Apple's reliance on China and their supply chain, the iPhone's been massively affected. And so yes, from now on for key components, Apple should work with different suppliers. And so for example, if Samsung has issues, LG and BOE should still be able to continue producing these panels and there would be no delays. Now LG and BOE are producing new production lines for these OLED panels, and they're going to be Gen 8.6 display panel production lines, which does increase the yield rate. Now for those a little doubtful about BOE, I can understand that because they have messed up in the past, but if Apple's trusting them again, I'm sure they're sticking to Apple specs and the displays are going to be perfect. And let's be honest guys, Apple cares about their margins, and I'm sure including BOE in this, and giving them some orders does reduce the cost of producing these displays. Anyways, let's delve into your questions regarding Apple. So recently I did discuss Apple silicon production moving to the US and Europe, and a lot of you guys did mention expect huge price increases, and yeah, that definitely is going to be the case. The reason Apple's so reliant on China right now is because the labor cost there is very low, but in the US, it's going to be a lot higher, and so that could result in price increases. And while, like I said in that video, I don't really mind this because I'd much rather pay a higher price and have products that are readily available, because if things do escalate between China and Taiwan, that could mean iPhone production is completely halted, and like we're facing right now, there would be major delays to all iPhone orders, and so yeah, that would suck, and I'm not willing to pay a lower price, and then of course wait a month or longer to get an iPhone order. That would suck. I'd much rather pay a higher price and get the product immediately. And ultimately, I do want Apple to diversify their supply chain, so yes, I still think this is a good move. And Joe seems to agree with me because he says, anywhere but China is good news. And yeah, especially with the China-Taiwan issue, I do think going to other parts of the world to produce components is the right move. So that one guy says, I wish the rumors were true of the iMac Pro being 32 inches. Now yes, a much bigger display for the larger iMac would be nice, but I'm assuming Apple's not doing this because a 32-inch mini LED panel would be way too expensive to produce and maybe could be similar in price to the Pro display, which of course is ludicrous for most consumers. And so yeah, sticking to 27 inches does make sense. So eBoy Mario says, I just don't know how the iMac Pro is going to fit in the lineup now, because if the iMac Pro was $2,000, then what's the point to the Mac Studio? The iMac Pro will get more sales than the Mac Studio because it's an all-in-one. Now I don't necessarily agree with that because I do think most pros prefer the Mac Studio's form factor because A, you can use any display with it, and also B, if the display on the iMac is dead, but of course the SoC is still fine, it still does mean the iMac's completely redundant, whereas that's not the case with the Mac Studio because it's literally just a box, and so if your display does die, you can just replace it and keep using the actual SoC. But yes, I do understand that $2,000 for the iMac Pro might be too close in price to the Mac Studio, so maybe we see $2,500, something in line with the MacBook Pro 16-inch. I think $500 is a big enough price gap where some professionals will just save their cash and go for the Mac Studio and reuse existing peripherals instead. So Bottlefish and Evan Rogers, regarding the delay of the higher-end MacBook Pro, says this is actually great news because the performance gain using the 3nm process is going to be significant. And yes, I did mention this in my original video regarding this, but yeah, the delay is not entirely bad news because TSMC could be ready with their 3nm chips, and M2 Max and Pro being based on this could give us major upgrades. And considering these MacBooks won't have redesigns and really any other changes apart from the chip, there should be a focus on the performance and giving us major upgrades. So Opus Digital Audio says the chin needs the logo put back, and actually I do kinda agree because I never understood why Apple got rid of the logo on the chin. Yes, I know the chin is an iconic design element that makes it instantly recognizable as an iMac, but I still think it looks pretty odd without a logo on the front. And so yes, if Apple can bring that back with the new models, I would appreciate that. Anyways, that's about it for my thoughts, but of course, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Anyways, thank you for watching, guys. Make sure to like and subscribe for the latest Apple news and rumours. Check out the video link above on details regarding Apple's VR headset. And on that note, see ya peeps.